For races 3 and 4 of the Rafa Racing Club Esports Porsche Carrera Cup Great Britain, we're at Donington Park. It is the national circuit and two 25-minute races that promise to be all action. David Addison and Paul Smith with you at one of the circuits that always delivers great racing, Paul, doesn't it? Because you've got this real mix of fast-flowing sections and, of course, the chicane where late braking is always going to really engender overtaking at the end of the lap.
Yeah, it certainly is. It gives you a couple of opportunities, even down into Redgate Turn 1 as a tremendous opportunity as well. The drivers enjoy the flow of this track as well. It's got a real rhythm to it. And if you can hook into that rhythm, my goodness, are you in for a good day.
Now, as far as the championship is concerned, Silverstone's National Circuit was our first venue, and it was there that we had two different overall race winners, with Pete Berryman winning the second and Sebastian Job the first, whereas in Am, it was all about Luke Pennington. He was just utterly dominant, wasn't he? And it was a very impressive showing.
It was. I mean, he was a championship contender in Am last season. Okay, it didn't quite work out for him, but this season he has come out with the blocks. He's really on fire, and whether he can now translate that to this round, well, we'll have to wait and see what's coming up.
Well, as far as the schedule for today works, they will very shortly be getting the open qualifying session underway. It's only 10 minutes, so they can't hang about. They've got to get in a good lap, of course, to try to get themselves at the front of the grid. It's not only in order to get the best grid position, it is also because in each class there are 2 points at stake for pole position. Then at 2:15 we go into race 1. It's 25 minutes. There's just a very short break between, and then we go into race 2 with the top 6 reverse. And with the grid for race 1 being what you might call a natural grid based on qualifying times, that has in the pro class the greater allocation of points. So a win in race 1 in pro is worth a little bit more than it is in race 2, Paul.
Yeah, and I think it's fair to do that, to give that reward for you being able to qualify well. I think it really works out in this championship to put that focus a little bit more on that race 1.
Now, as far as the championships, plural, are concerned, it is Sebastian Job who leads by just 2 points within the pro standings. Luke McEwen behind him, tied with William Chadwick. And then Peter Berryman, that had honours in race 2 at Donington, 4th. He, in turn, is 4 points up on Josh Thompson. And it is Luke Bennett, 6th, with Jamie Moon, Jack Sedgwick, Graham Carroll, and then Gareth Higgins, rounding out the top 10. As far as Am is concerned, well, Luke Pennington was just so dominant at Silverstone, but he's well clear with Scott Moak 2nd. Crofton Woodhatch comes next ahead of Dan Martin. Tim Darracott and Oliver Ettridge rounds out the top 6. We're about to get qualifying underway. Again, there are 2 points in each class on the line. And the last time we ran this configuration of the circuit, Paul, it was really Sebastian Job who was the quickest and the man to beat.
I think he's basically been the man to beat in this series when it comes to qualifying. He really has been quite dominant, and I will say thank you very much to Will Chadwick, who in the week gave us a little bit of insight into today's event, and he let us know it's 651 days since Sebastian Job was last beaten to pole position in this series, and it was Graham Carroll in the penultimate round of 2022, so it's been a while since Sebastian has not been on pole. He was the pole sitter the one and only time that we've been hit to this particular layout of Donington back in 2021. So all eyes are on Sebastian as to whether he can follow up his form from Silverstone.
Now, that lap time that he did for pole position, I know qualifying is underway, but while they're finishing an out lap and they're getting tyres up to temperature, let's just do the admin, as it were. It was a lap at just over 66 seconds. Now, on the one hand, that's what they're aiming for, but really, because the cars have evolved, they're aiming to go quicker, aren't they?
Yes, they absolutely are. We've had little bits of tweaks to the car in the simulator. The tyres have been changed as well in the simulator, so we're going to have those little bits. So we are expecting in the sort of 65-second mark, maybe even dipping into the 64-second mark for a lap time round here.
So don't forget, everyone has the same base car, 510 horsepower, 992 iteration of the Porsche 911 GT3 Cup, 4-litre engines. The only difference between the classes really is driver experience and ability to differentiate pro from am. And at the end of this next lap, we're going to start to see what proper lap times are being offered up. And as we say, at just over a minute, you get back to the start and finish line pretty rapidly, don't you?
You certainly do, and it also means that you have actually got plenty of opportunities to put a lap time in. With it being a shorter lap, like Silverstone last time at the national layout, you've got plenty of opportunities, and drivers, they're still... Luke McEwen that we're on board with, you can hear, he's not attacking yet. He's just preparing his car. These cars, as you said, David, they're all identical. They've all run in the same setup, which means that they've all got the same amount of fuel on board. Well, the drivers want as little fuel on board as possible for the weight, but counter that, you also want to look after the tyres so that you don't wear them out, so that you then end up not being able to get that lap in at the end of qualifying.
Now, the fastest so far is Matt Emery, who has done a 65.7, so that, therefore, is much better than 2021, and he is somebody that was third in the championship last year, but Matt Emery didn't score at Silverstone, had a pretty torrid time, so he desperately needs a good brace of races here to really kickstart his campaign, doesn't he?
Yeah, I think Matt will be a little bit disappointed with how Silverstone went, and will have... It's always good to have a bit of a reset and say, right, okay, that's in the history books, forget about that, I can't control that, let's focus on Donington, and he will have been putting time and effort into this circuit to get those get the best performance. Scott Merckx across the line in Am, and you can tell he's still preparing his car with a 108.7, so we're a bit off yet before we see those fast times coming in.
Graham Carroll, who is that other driver other than Sebastian Job to have a pole position in recent history, he's third behind Dylan Platt, who drives number 23, and Dylan Platt is another of the AMs in the Geeks Energy Esports entry. You're riding now with Graham Carroll, so he's trying to get himself up from third in the times and second within Pro as well. And actually, looking at the road ahead, it's all clear. This is looking good for him.
Yeah, and he looks to be pushing a little bit more as well. You can see that in the behaviour of the car, how the car is on throttle and attacking those curbs. So yeah, he just seemed to be trying to put in an early marker. 5.5 minutes remaining, so we're nearly at the halfway point of qualifying. You do want to start getting some competitive lap times in.
So he breaks the beam, and as he goes through, Graham Carroll stays third, but...
Nope, there we go.
Oh, he's now confirmed, 64. So yes, it took a while for the time to come up, but it does so. 64.9. Now that is a very good effort. But let's see next if anybody's going to get near that. Where is Sebastian Job? He's 12th and still building up to it. That's Dylan Platt, who was the quickest of the AMs. But guess what's happened? Luke Pennington says, excuse me, I'm top AM, if you don't mind. And not only has he got onto class pole provisionally, second overall.
Yeah, and it's only with just short of 0.2 slower than Graham Carroll. It's worth pointing out in the warm-up session before this qualifying, the last opportunity of any practice for these drivers, Pete Berryman did a 64.6 second lap time. And look at the traffic that Nathan Tague's having to go through here, trying to work his way through. And this is one of the disadvantages of people trying to look after the tyres and burn the fuel off when others are trying to put a lap time in.
Yeah, Nathan Tague is currently 5th. I'm not necessarily saying he's going to stay 5th, but bearing in mind that at Silverstone, the two race results that he got were 29 and 25th, he's in pretty lofty positions at the moment, given where he was at Silverstone. He runs it really wide out of the chicane, goes over the timing line, and Nathan Tague's lap, as now Alexander Davidson goes quickest ahead of Graham Carroll. What does Nathan Tague's lap do for him? Keeps him 8th.
And that's a big slide there at Redgate as well, so he's not going to continue that lap. I mean, Nathan, on his social media, he basically his goal was to be not as bad as last round, which, to be honest, I think would be very difficult to do if you did it as bad. And it's also his home circuit as well, so he's got a bit of extra knowledge around here.
Now, Sebastian Job is only 18th, isn't he? So there's clearly more to come, but he's running it fine because there's only 3 more minutes on the clock. So as you look at Scott Merckx, another of the AMs for Olympus Esports, coming out of the Double Apex right of Coppice, it is Sebastian Job that we're all, as ever, expecting to see suddenly jump up to the very top. Alexander Davidson, Graham Carroll, and then Jack Sedgwick is the top 3. Scott Merckx almost goes lawn mowing, doesn't he? Coming out of the chicane, then up towards the timing line, goes through into the top 6.
Yeah, just gets himself into that top 6. There's a number of drivers who have not set themselves a competitive time, and Jack Sedgwick, that is not how you go through the final chicane at Roberts.
Yeah, he got too close to the back of the car ahead. There was a little tap. He's lost it. Luckily that he's able to get out of the gravel and carry on, but he's thrown away that lap. He's thrown away the next. And I'm wondering whether he's going to have time to do any better than that. There's another one on the lawn down at the old hairpin, and Sebastian Job now goes fourth fastest, as up to the top of the times goes Luke McEwen. So Alexander Davidson, who was top, is down to third. It's McEwen, Berryman, Davidson, Job, Thompson, Bennett as a really nice jumbled top six.
It certainly is, and you look at how close these times are as well. It's absolutely incredible just how competitive the front of the field is. We saw this last time out at Silverstone as well, just how close the field was. So Alex Davidson, he's only got 2/100ths of a second to try and beat his teammates, giving him a bit of a draft as well, trying to help him out across the line, and he does improve, does Davidson. That's going to put him to top.
It is indeed, but for how long? As Leo Gariboli, last year's AM champ, goes through. 12th he was, 12th he stays, goes by. So Job fourth, and with time for certainly one full lap. But don't forget, as soon as the clock hits zero, that's it, you don't complete the lap. Luke Pennington, now, he's still the top AM, but he hasn't half been elbowed down the order, has he, to 14th overall.
Yeah, I think that just the competitiveness of this field is just, it's really showing this time out of Donington. Alex Davidson, Luke Bennett, they're in the pit, so they're done for qualifying now. So Alex now is just carefully just watching those timing sheets and hoping that he stays at the top.
Well, we've had a change for fifth. Matt Emery gets up ahead of number 43. That being Josh Thompson, but he couldn't get himself ahead of Sebastian Job. Now, what about Luke McEwen? He's second. He's only 21 thousandths down on Alex Davidson, but the problem is he's got a whole galaxy of cars ahead who are busy trying to find track position and trying to improve lap times as he comes down to the chicane, closing on the traffic, ducks up the inside. Some go across the grass in the middle. They get out of his way.
No, he's abandoned it. Yeah, he's abandoned the lap. Sebastian Job, this is his last opportunity then. Can he get pole position? If he doesn't, it would be the first time for 651 days. Can he do it here, David?
Let's have a look then as he comes up towards the line. Sebastian Job, fourth at the start of the lap, goes through and has done it indeed. He goes quickest of all on a 64.696. So I can't see anybody beating him from there. Flag out, perfectly timed.
That I talk about working it to the second. That is absolutely sensational. And once again, Sebastian just goes to show how competitive he is at the front of the field.
So Sebastian Job will start on pole position from Alex Davidson. Luke McEwen is going to be on the second row with Peter Berryman for company, and starting fifth is Graham Carroll with Matt Emery, sixth on the grid. Seventh will be 43, that's Josh Thompson, ahead of Luke Bennett. Then Gareth Higgins, and it is Tom Cope to round out the top 10, ahead of Leo Gariboli, and then David Williams, only 12th. In turn, he's ahead of Jack Sedgwick, who's going to be one to watch in the first race. Jacob Toths is next, ahead of the best of the AMs, that is Luke Pennington. It's Daniel Martin, second of the AMs, and then you've got Daniel Sedgley and Eric Grove rounding out the top 18 on the grid. Scott Mopes only 19th, and another one to watch will be Crofton Woodhatch, who in turn starts ahead of Adam Holloway and Dylan Platt. Tim Darracott is next, and 24th, Nathan Tague, who did drop down in the end. 25th on the grid, Oliver Ettridge ahead of William Chadwick, who's a long, long way down the order, bearing in mind that he's second equal in the championship in Pro, and Daniel Cofield rounds out the grid. But what about Chadwick? He's got a huge amount of work to do now.
And it's not the easiest venue to overtake at either. You can get overtakes done here, but he'll have to have a charge and a half. And with only the top 6 getting inverted for race 2, it's a case of just trying to damage limitation, I think, basically here.
Yeah, I think you're right. He's got to sort of reverse engineer the weekend, hasn't he? Now all the focus has got to go on race 2, and in order to get a good grid position for that second race, well, the hard work is about to start. 25 minutes ahead of us for this third race within the Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain. Everybody getting back onto the server, one by one, staggered grid, pole position on the inside line in his Red Bull colours this weekend. Sebastian Job ready to go racing them. So everybody is good to go. We wait for the lights to change, and then we'll get race 3 of the championship underway. Sebastian Job is the man on pole position then. It is blast off. Good getaway by Job then as they make the run down towards Redgate and cutting straight across behind it. Alex Davidson to try to defend from everybody else as they dive now down towards Redgate for the first time. He's Job up front, it is Davidson second, and I reckon Luke McEwen is just going to be third as they make the run now down through the Crater curves for the first time.
Yeah, McEwen just able to muscle out Pete Berryman ahead behind him, so Graham Carroll was showing his nose. The Veloce Vex team will be hoping for a much better time than last time out because they had trials and tribulations, but certainly as we're heading up to McLean's already, Sebastian, by Davidson trying to block, has just allowed Sebastian to pull away a little bit.
He has indeed, so Job it is coming into Coppice, trying to edge clear. Davidson then busy both trying to go after him but also defend, and Job is doing what we saw at Silverstone, as in lap one, cold tyres. He's really good at being able to push, isn't he, and commit and try and build that lead, and while he's building the lead he leaves everybody else squabbling amongst themselves. Down they come towards the chicane then for the first time. Josh Thompson on a bit of a mission as well, but he's got work to do as Job goes from one side of the road to the other, tries to break the toe, and at the end of the opening lap of the race, he's already the best part of 0.6 of a second up the road. Drama at the chicane, Paul.
Yes, there was. Nathan Tague was involved, Crofton Woodhatch as well. Will Chadwick is all the way at the back there as well. So, yeah, big drama down at the chicane.
Yeah, Chadwick, remember, qualified really badly, so he's trying to make that progress through the order, isn't he, from the penultimate row of the grid as the cars dive down out of the old hairpin. 1 or 2 run wide, kick up the dirt, but Job is getting away. That margin is increasing. It's 0.9 of a second now. And playing into his hands is the fact that everybody else has managed to get a playmate behind. So McEwen, for example, second ahead of Davidson, but while they're battling, they're holding each other up.
And this is Will Chadwick. Oh, it was Tague completely out of control. Came right across the inside of the chicane and wipes out William Chadwick. Chadwick's had to take to the pit road and get something done to his car. So he's at the very back of the field now.
Yeah, and as Chadwick was sorting himself out, he in turn tagged another car, didn't he? So there was a secondary impact, as it were. So poor old William Chadwick, bad qualifying, which is why he was at the back anyway. And then, as you say, he got tagged coming down through the chicane. So the leaders go by. Job it is ahead of McEwen and Davidson. All battles have been raging on early doors. That's not the way to take the chicane, is it?
No, and it was, I think Tague just got into a little bit into the back of somebody else, unsettled the car, took to the grass and just basically prayed that there would be a gap, but unfortunately there was a red Porsche in his way.
And that's always, of course, one of the downsides to racing. You can plan your own drive, plan your lines, but what you can't legislate for is somebody else having a moment and wiping you out. Now, in the AM class, Luke Pennington leads the way, and it's Scott Mokes doing the chasing. And actually, at the moment, partly because Luke Pennington is much further down the order overall here compared to Silverstone, he's got proper AM opposition with him, hasn't he?
And he's under some serious pressure as well. Scotty Mokes is doing a good job. They have got a pro between them and Dan Martin as well, so that top 3 in AM have got a little bit of separation right now, but Scott is putting the pressure on Pennington, and it's not going to be quite the cakewalk that it was for Luke at Silverstone.
Yes, that pro that's between them, as you say, is David Williams, who is in 18th place and was 12th on the grid. So he's had a Pop's first couple of laps, hasn't he, tumbling down the order, as Sebastian Job then it is clear at the moment, heading downhill, and the margin actually isn't increasing in quite the way you might have expected. He's got away, he's got a bit of a cushion, but he's not then storming into the distance. As you look at Scott Mokes, 17th overall, hard at work here.
Yeah, and he's just losing a little bit of time to Luke and the rest of the pack in front. I think Luke is wishing that he could actually get past some of those drivers in front of him, but it's a whole queue of cars that basically goes from first place all the way down to about that battle for 16th, 17th. It is an incredibly close field once again, which shows the level of competition that we have here.
Indeed so. Now that's Peter Berryman going through in 4th place in number 50. The car from the Apex Racing team. Now, he was the winner in the reverse grid or semi-reverse grid race at Silverstone, so we know that Peter Berryman has got good pace. He's keeping Graham Carroll and Matt Emery at bay as they go through Hollywood onto the top of the Crater curves. Sebastian Job still clear, but last timing point was hovering around the upper reaches of 0.6 of a second, which is down a little bit from where it was earlier on in the race. So actually here, Luke McEwen is doing a good job at going after him.
McEwen's last lap was a 64.9 compared to Job's 65.1. So he is gaining little by little, and there's plenty of time. We've only had 5 minutes of this race so far, David, so there's plenty more to come here. And I think we saw this last time out, how Sebastian was able to, he got that initial launch and then was just able to control the field under some serious pressure at Silverstone. Here, it's a bit of a different challenge around this circuit, but Luke will be putting that pressure on once again here today.
And again, you can see what Sebastian Job's plan seems to be. Qualify on pole, get the points, clear off into the distance for the heavier weight in first race, bank those points as well, and then see what pans out of race 2. Keep out of trouble and try to get a result. Look back from Sebastian Job's car through Hollywood, down through the Craner curves. Mega part of the circuit. This, you've got to be really brave. And Donington, an ideal circuit for these cars. 510 horsepower, remember, and down through the Craners, that's one part where they can really stretch their legs.
Certainly, and if anybody has never been to Donington Park, I strongly recommend that you get yourself at the bottom by the old hairpin, bottom of the Craner curves, and just watch those cars plunging downhill and the speed that they can carry through. The Craner curves are actually a little bit tighter than it looks on TV, is what I took away from it, and they're carrying so much speed through there, it's incredible.
And at the bottom is that slightly misnamed old hairpin, but
yes,
that takes you all the way back to the original iteration of Donington in the 1930s. Right then, so McEwen is closing on Job, no question about it. Bit well and truly between his teeth as they go across the stripe. That margin is down to 1/5 of a second. This is game on. We've seen Sebastian Job's pace. We've seen him good in qualifying, good at winning from the front. Now we're going to see how good a defender he is.
Now, is Job's plan here to try and back up McEwen into Davidson and Berryman to try and get those other cars involved in this? Try and get McEwen to have to look in his mirrors, because at the moment, McEwen's focus is all solely on Sebastian here, and he seems to have that edge at this point of the race.
He looks decent. You're right, he looks like he's got the pace, doesn't he? Where does the move come? Well, if it's going to be at the chicane, it's got to start here, because he needs to try to get Job just to move the car ever so slightly offline coming out of Coppice to give him half an opportunity all the way down Starkey Straight, and that is where they are now. So straight away, Job goes defensive. It's partly to break a toe, but it is partly to make sure that he's got that defensive inside line for the chicane. He hangs on to the race lead. They go right, they go left, they come up towards the end of the lap now. And Job is still not getting away. Davidson, in the meantime, in third place, he's not really catching, is he?
No, he's not. I thought he would be, but he actually lost about 1.5 tenths that last lap. So these two have got some serious pace at the front, and even though they're eyeing each other up and defending in some cases, well, it just shows that the pace that they seem to have that edge over Alex Davidson, and maybe Davidson just being a little bit, I mean this respectfully, just a little bit of a cork in the bottle at the moment.
So 16 3/4 minutes and counting. Out of McLean's they come, back on the power, climb the hill towards Coppice. There's what, about 2 lengths, if that, between the top two and Sebastian Job. Don't forget, very much the benchmark driver, because he is twice Carrera Cup GB Esports champion, and he's an Esports Super Cup champion. And here he is, being given a hard time by Luke McEwen as they drop down towards the chicane once more. That gap hovering around 3/4 tenths of a second now. McEwen, who was 4th in the sprint challenge last year, comes up over the timing line, goes through, and so McEwen getting better and better and better in esports terms all the time. Good news for him, he's still not being caught by Davidson, so the sole focus can be on Job ahead of him.
Yeah, certainly. Oh, there's that's a very slow-moving Team Redline car. Luke Bennett, what on earth has happened here? He seems to have lost drive.
Yeah, and that's the man that's 6th in the championship in class, in pro, Luke Bennett, so that's costly. Illustrates, doesn't it, the importance here of keeping out of trouble and banking points. So competitive a championship is it? You can't afford a day like that.
I wonder if he's had a hardware failure in terms of his sim equipment. I wonder if he's had a hardware failure. Yes, he's taken it back to the pits. He went for there was a move ahead. He then tried to follow his teammate through, makes contact, and then the car just does not go. That's very strange.
So, no points for Luke Bennett. Big disappointment for the Team Redline driver. Graham Carroll, in the meantime, is 5th, and he's got himself onto the back of Berryman, who in turn is on the back of Davidson. And this is part of the reason that Davidson's not catching 2nd place Luke McEwen. He's too busy defending, because up the inside goes Berryman for 3rd place, and he's done it. Great move.
Oh, that was great, but watch for the up and under. Here we go, the little switcheroo down the inside on corner exit, and Graham Carroll's in the worst seat right now. He doesn't know where to go. Well, he's going to go to the inside of the crane of curves, but no, not able to take advantage. But Berryman will be thinking, finally, I can get clear.
He made it stick, didn't he? Because although, as you saw, Davidson came back at him, Peter Berryman, Silverstone Race 2 winner, goes through and makes that stick. So he's now 3rd. We'll see whether he can make progress onto the tail of McEwen. Rather depends on whether Davidson comes back at him. But interestingly, Berryman is sort of doing what he did in race 1 at Silverstone, as in coming good in the second half of the race.
Yeah, it seems to be working out for him. It's a plan that works well for a lot of people. Maybe just being kind to the tyres at the start of the race, because if you use and abuse these tyres here in this sim at the start of the race, you will feel the effects of it towards the end. I mean, we're quite for this time of year, a quite warm 32 degrees Celsius track temperature. So yeah, certainly the simulator is, although we are simulating a day in April, although I think I've ever recalled seeing a 32 degree track temperature in April. But there you go. But certainly they will feel a little bit of the effects of that towards the end of the race. Indeed
so, and it's going to be the same distance. Duration 25 minutes for race 2. So Job still leading McEwen. Berryman 3rd. Is he getting away from Davidson? If he is, it's not by much. Davidson is certainly keeping him honest, as again they make that run now up through Coppice. Davidson, though, is coming under renewed attack. Graham Carroll certainly has designs on 4th place, if not better, doesn't he?
He certainly does, and he's showing his nose. He's trying to get in Alex Davidson's eye line, but Alex is somebody who has really come on in the last few years in the world of British sim racing, and he's really come to the fore, and it's great to see him up at the front challenging. But there goes Carroll to the inside. He's not got the overlap quite enough.
But he has got the speed, hasn't he? He does look quick enough as they make the plunge once again down through the craners. Now, whilst Davidson's been defending, look what that has done for Berryman. Suddenly, he's got an advantage of about 4 or 5 lengths, which is enabling him to get up the road against McEwen. And Graham Carroll knows now that even though Davidson had good pace in qualifying, he hasn't got it in the race. And so the quicker car is that of Graham Carroll. McLean's is an overtaking opportunity, and he seizes it up the inside line. They come out of the corner side by side, but Graham Carroll's going to have the inside line for Coppice. He will break a fraction later. Job done. Through he goes. Good racing this.
Oh, that was almost reminiscent of a young John Cleland, that move. Down through the inside there at McLean's. Absolutely great. Just blasted the light breakers. And you can do that. It's uphill braking into McLean's. You can just push the brakes a little bit late ahead. The one consolation that Alex Davidson can have right now is if the race finished with these results, he'd be on the front row again for the next race.
That's true, because you reverse the top 6. What's going on in AM? Luke Pennington is still ahead of Scott Mokes. They've now got Jacob Tofts between them, so there is a pro as a cushion behind Luke Pennington. Now he is in the Coach Dave Academy car, the David Perrell team, down through the craners again. And we are currently on lap number 13. We've got just over 11 minutes of the race to go. But Luke Pennington, yet again, is the dominant AM driver. He's going to take some stopping this year.
He certainly is. He's really picked up the game. Compared to last season, he had a little bit of inconsistency last season that cost him a championship. But this season, he is really putting his card in and saying, I'm here to do one thing and one thing only, and that's win this championship. And he's started off well.
The next target overall is going to be Eric Grove for WSR Esports, and he's got the pace to get ahead of him. But as we discussed at Silverstone, now Luke Pennington's decision is when to hold and when to fold. He's got to pick his battles, because he can just sit there and take an AM win, or he can try and gain the place overall and put himself in jeopardy.
I mean, you can look in his mirrors as well and see that the cars behind are not really the closest right now, so I don't need to force that move right now. I can happily sit here and just look after the car, look after the tyres, and then if towards the end of the race I need to make that move forward, then you can push on.
So through goes Grove. 13th overall. Pennington is 14th. It is Scott Mokes who is the second placed AM class driver at the moment. And then for third in the category, it is a little bit further back down the order. Daniel Martin. David Williams still trying to recover, having lost ground early on. This is Crofton Woodhatch. He was delayed early on as well. And with just under 10 minutes of the race to go now, Sebastian Job still doesn't have a massive margin, but he does, for the moment at least, seem to have got the measure of Luke McEwen.
Yeah, I think he's in that controlling phase of the game right now. He, like we saw at Silverstone, who just controlled that gap at the front. And I think, to be fair, I think Luke's just matching his pace for the time being. There is a problem with that you can find, is that if you follow a car too much, you then start braking where they start braking, you turn in where they turn in, and before you know it, you've slowed down to their pace for the rest of the race.
Well, Sebastian Job also has that psychological advantage, doesn't he? As a race winner already this season, as a double champion in this Carrera Cup GB Esports Championship, and therefore, if you do latch onto his tail, it must be quite tempting to think, okay, I'm absolutely flat out because I'm up with the champion, without thinking, maybe I can get past, maybe I can go quicker. But McEwen is tantalisingly close as the minutes tick down. Out of the chicane once again then, up towards the timing line they come. It's going to be just over 8.5 on the clock as they cross the stripe, and as they do so, they start now lap 16.
It's quite a few years ago, but Sebastian Job did used to be in that Apex Racing team, so the team do know him from a few years ago, but he has developed since then, and I do think he's more of a complete driver now than he was back then. He's really come on, but Luke McEwen is young, he's exciting. Speaking of exciting, we've got side-by-side down the Carrera curves with Daniel Sedgley.
Sedgley on a mission. Luke Pennington sitting watching it all, but trying not to get himself involved in anybody else's dramas. He's up alongside Sedgley. He's going to be through, is he? By the time they get to Schwantz curve. Yeah, job done. Round the outside. Good pass then. Luke Pennington goes through, and he could have hit the anchors there and just let all that happen ahead of him. But a proper racer, he pushed on, even though that might have put him in jeopardy.
I mean, ever the opportunist. If ever there was a time for somebody who's just sat back, waiting for things to unfold, and right, here's my chance, here's my opportunity, take it. That's exactly what Luke has done, and if anything, that helps him just be a bit more comfortable in that AM standings right now.
Oh, he's doing a grand job, isn't he? Now let's see whether Daniel Sedgley can come back at him in the Olympus Esports car. Over the line they go. Behind the pair, you've got Jacob Tofts with the Duckham's Oil car. His father, Neil Tofts, you will have seen in real-world Porsche Sprint Challenge for the Caymans last year, ex-Formula Ford racer. Up front, though, 7 minutes are on the clock for Sebastian Job as the race leader. It is Luke McEwen and then Peter Berryman behind. Now, last time around, Berryman did a 65.4, not as quick as McEwen. So even though there's clear road ahead of him, he's not catching McEwen, who is getting a little bit nearer to the back of Sebastian Job. This is a much tougher opening race than Job had at Silverstone because he is under constant pressure.
Yes, but he's showing that he's adept to that pressure as well and can cope with it. This chicane, you have to be careful with that curb on the left-hand side, because if you hit it wrong, it can push you wide onto the grass on corner exit. Now, we get a little duck there. Graham Carroll has been lapping a little bit quicker than Peter Berryman in third place, so we could see the Veloci Vext driver maybe making some moves towards the end of this race.
Yeah, Graham Carroll has chipped his way up into that fourth place, hasn't he, at the expense of Alex Davidson, who's going to be decidedly miffed about this from second on the grid. But with 6 minutes to go, we've got a proper lead battle. Sebastian Job now, you can see, is under attack. He's just not getting away from McEwen. Where does Luke try? Can't do it at McLean's, wasn't near enough. Rides the curve on the inside, back on the power up the hill towards Coppice. Does he feint to the inside line into the corner? No, but he's right there, isn't he? He could not be nearer now to the back of Sebastian Job's car. He
could almost push Sebastian through Coppice there. He was that close. It's getting a bit tense, a bit tight up at the front. But this is the point of the race where now, if Luke has been looking after his tyres, he needs to push on now and really take advantage of that opportunity. I mean, 5 minutes 20, you're looking at about 5 laps remaining in this race. So the time and the opportunities are reducing.
They are indeed. Round Redgate once more. The margin Last timing point was just over 0.3 of a second. Down through the Craner curves. Now this looks like a lap on which Sebastian Jobe is slightly quicker. So let's just see. I say that in as much as he'd stretched the lead by maybe a length and a half or so coming down through the Craner curves. But Luke McEwen, and it might be that you've got cars that are set up for different parts of the circuit better, as in McEwen is good from this point on, Sebastian Jobe good in the first sector of the lap. But either way, McEwen is pushing again, isn't he, heading up towards Coppice? And again, the move really at the chicane starts here.
Yes, and I mean, they are all using the exact same setup as well, don't forget. So maybe it's the driving styles with that setup suits Sebastian in the first part of the lap, as you're saying, but maybe that setup then suits Luke towards the end of the lap as well. It's fascinating to watch this at the front, but certainly the margins are finite between these two in terms of the level of talent and speed between them, and it's tremendous to watch this.
It is indeed, isn't it? With now, what, 4 minutes on the clock. So down through the Craner curves, once again they go. So a good drive by Sebastian Jobe. Doesn't matter whether he wins by 1,000th of a second as long as he wins. So the main target now is just to make sure Luke McEwen doesn't find a way past him. And Sebastian Jobe has not put a wheel wrong thus far, has he?
No, he's not. And but Sebastian knows that Luke is one of those championship contenders for this season, one of those people who will really be pushing him through this season, and he wants to just stay ahead, get those early points, because if you can get the early points in the championship and just make life a little bit easier, more comfortable for you in the second half of the season, that's what you need to do. And Sebastian is a master of that. But Luke, he is keeping him honest right now and pushing him all the way to the end here.
Sebastian Jobe has done the best lap of the race, a 65.1, moving the game on from 2021 when they last raced on the national circuit. We've now got less than 3 minutes to go as they drop downhill again. Big frustration really for the likes of Berryman and Carroll and Davidson in that they are just nowhere in comparison with these two. Even though they're squabbling for the race lead, they're not delaying themselves enough to give this man, Peter Berryman, a chance. He in turn has got Graham Carroll crawling all over the back of him, hasn't he? So Carroll wants a podium, and there's a big dive going on there. Look, on the inside line, Jack Sedgwick trying to find a way through, so good racing all the way to the very end. Sedgwick goes through, does he? Should be able to get the job done at McLean's.
Leo Garibaldi that he's racing with, having a better race this time is Leo than last time out at Silverstone. Remember, getting involved in incidents on the opening lap. Leo's having a look back at Coppice. Oh my goodness, they're almost banging doors here through here. Now Sedgwick, he's got that outside line. He's going to be a little bit struggling to hold on to the place into the chicane.
Down they come then. So on the outside line for part one is Sedgwick, but that translates to the inside for part two. Job done. Leo Garibaldi has to watch him go. Comes up over the line. Less than 2 minutes of the race to go now. This battle is not done yet though, is it?
Oh, he's looking. He's diving to the inside at Redgate, but Sedgwick can get on the power earlier on the outside line out of Redgate through Hollywood and down the Craner curves. But Garibaldi's there and he's squeezing him through the Craner curves.
To the inside line goes Leo Garibaldi, back ahead then. So really good racing between the two. This Leo Garibaldi not happy about being overtaken, fights back, gets through, and we're going to have one more lap to run at the end of this, aren't we, as the leaders come through. So Sebastian Jobe it is up front, and look, he's having to go defensive again, moves to the inside, then back to the outside, trying to shake off the challenge of Luke McEwen, who has done a good job of staying with him, but we've never really seen Luke have a proper go for the race lead. He is running out of options, less than a lap time left in the race.
Sebastian hasn't given them the opportunity to make a move. That's the thing here. He has really kept him behind and controlled this lead well. But Luke, if he wants to make a move, I think really his opportunity is through McLean's into Coppice is his last opportunity here to try and make something happen down at the chicane.
Well, he is close at the old hairpin, as you can see, but he's not close enough to make a move. But now he's got to get himself right under the rear wing of the Oracle Red Bull Sim Racing entry of Sebastian Jobe, who's had one race win already this year. Up they come, out of McLean's, heading in towards Coppice. And as we keep saying, McEwen is running out of options because there is copies to go. The Sedgwick versus Gary Bowley battle is still raging on, with Gary Bowley back on the inside at McLean's. The leaders, though, are going down towards the chicane, and McEwen, I don't think it's quite close enough. He's going to have to settle for second, isn't he? Sebastian Job is on target for win number 2. Into the chicane they come. Checkered flag at the ready, up to the timing line, and Sebastian Job wins race 3 of the Porsche Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain, with a really good drive to keep Luke McEwen at bay. Third, Peter Berryman ahead of Graham Carroll, Alex Davidson, and then Josh Thompson, a drama in the background.
That was Gary Bowley. That was Gary Bowley. Has he been pushed or did he fall? But he's fallen down the order is what he's done at the end there, finishing 16th in the end. I think him and Sedgwick got a little bit too close for comfort at the end.
Yeah, Sedgwick did get through for 10th. It's been another AM win for Luke Pennington, with Scott Mokes as the second of the AMs at the end of 24 laps. But high drama right into the last couple of corners. Oliver Ettridge makes his way up now towards the timing line. So Sebastian Job, the race winner by 0.349 of a second. Really impressive effort. And towards the end of the race, in fact, Graham Carroll going even better for the fastest lap then. He did a 1 minute 4.969. But Sebastian Job is the race winner. Luke McEwen second from Peter Berryman, and then Graham Carroll fourth. Alexander Davidson fifth. Josh Thompson taking sixth ahead of Matt Emery, then Gareth Higgins, Tom Cope, and Jack Sedgwick provisionally 10th despite all the dramas at the chicane. Eric Grove took 11th. 12th, the AM winning Luke Pennington ahead of Dan Sedgley and then Jacob Toft. Second AM, 15th overall, Scott Mokes, and Leo Garibaldi 16th after the dramas at the chicane. David Williams went backwards from his grid position to 17th. It was Daniel Martin 18th, third AM ahead of Tim Darracott, and then Adam Holloway 20th. 21st, Daniel Cofield ahead of Croft and Woodhatch and Dylan Platt. Nathan Tague, despite his dramas on the first lap, 24th ahead of Oliver Ettridge. And the two that we lost, Luke Bennett and William Chadwick, two significant drivers from the pro category.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Will Chadwick coming into this round being joint second place. Here's what happened to Gary Bowley and Sedgwick. Gary Bowley hits that curb and it pushes him into the front corner of Sedgwick's car. Sedgwick was still always there. I think it was just that curb strike on the right-hander of the chicane that pushed him across into the nose of Sedgwick.
Yeah, he was never fully ahead, was he? He was going for the line for the second part of the chicane, but the rear of his car was never clear of the front of Sedgwick, so it was always, I think, going to result in contact. Well, what do we make of Luke McEwen's drive there? Because he kept Sebastian Job on his toes all the way through, didn't he?
He certainly did that, and I mean, he pushed all the way, but I think it showed once again how good Sebastian Job is in keeping that lead and keeping him behind and not really giving Luke the opportunities. We saw that last time out at Silverstone as well, don't forget, in that race number 1. McEwen did put the pressure on Job in that one, but wasn't able to make the move either. So is Sebastian just getting a little bit in the head of Luke? Interesting as well, Graham Carroll, fastest lap of the race. So once he'd got himself into a bit of clear track space, he was able to really push. So the tendency is always to think about how good Sebastian Job is, and he is, but Graham Carroll saying don't forget about some of the others. I've got good pace, and Luke McEwen as well. This is going to be interesting though, of course, now with the reversal of the top 6, putting Josh Thompson onto provisional pole position. Yeah, certainly. I mean, Graham, you know, he is an experienced hand at sim racing. He knows what he's doing, and he's trying to show that, you know, the experienced drivers, they know what they're doing here as well. It's not all about the young guns.
So we have this warm-up for the drivers to get themselves ready for the second race, the grid based on the results of race 1, but with the reversal of the top 6. So it will be Josh Thompson for pole position, and Alex Davidson, again, is going to be on the outside of the front row, even though it's because of finishing 5th rather than being second fastest this time. So he fell back from his grid position, but he's going to start again on the outside of row 1. And Sebastian Job, 6th, is going to have to do the hard yards to see what progress can be made. Well, when he was in the similar situation at Silverstone, he got himself up to 5th, kept out of trouble and banked the points, didn't he?
He certainly did, and he'll be looking to maybe move forward a little bit more, but when you look at those drivers in front, it's going to be a tough act.
So, Josh Thompson, Alex Davidson, your front row from Graham Carroll, and the man that won the equivalent race at Silverstone, Peter Berryman. Luke McEwen starts 5th, Sebastian Job 6th, 7th on the grid, Matt Emery, and it's going to be Gareth Higgins 8th. 9th will be Tom Cope, and then Jack Sedgwick, one to watch from 10th. Eric Grove starts 11th, and 12th is the best of the AMs, Luke Pennington. 13th, Dan Sedgley, ahead of Jacob Tofts. Then Scott Mokes, another of the AMs. 16th, Leo Gariboli, ahead of David Williams. And then it is Daniel Martin starting 18th. Tim Darracott comes next, ahead of Adam Holloway. Then you've got Daniel Cofield and Crofton Woodhatch, ahead of Dylan Plant and Nathan Tague, 24th on the grid. Oliver Ettridge is next, and then Luke Bennett, 26th. The other driver that retired in race 1 is 27th on the grid, William Chadwick, who yet again has it all to do, and it's going to be tough to get through the traffic.
It certainly is, and it just goes to show how important qualifying is if you put a bad qualifying in, you're more likely to get involved in incidents in that back of the field, and it's come back to haunt Will there, and that's really put a big dampener on his championship charge. I think Graham Carroll could be on for a potential race win in this second race. The pace that he showed in that first race and the fact that he was able to make moves, I think he's one to look out for.
I think you might be right. He is there on the inside of the second row of the grid. It is Josh Thompson ahead, and by definition it's a slower Josh Thompson ahead because he finished behind him in the earlier race, so that should in theory help Graham Carroll. The other fascination is going to be Luke McEwen versus Sebastian Jobe, to see what progress they can make and who's going to get ahead of their battle. That is the Red Bull coloured car of Sebastian Jobe, all ready to go. So we are ready for business. Race 2 of the day, race 4 of the championship is go, and a good getaway from pole position there by Josh Thompson. Graham Carroll, though, to the inside of Alex Davidson, down towards Redgate. He's got to be late on the brakes. Can't get the line, though. He has the inside, but Davidson comes out just ahead. Now, Graham Carroll tries on the inside at Hollywood, and this time he's done it. Drama, though, there. Look, coming out of Redgate, Luke Bennett is in strife again.
Oh, it's just all been a bad day at the office for Luke Bennett. Alex Davidson, though, once again getting caught out at the start, and Luke McEwen's now sniffing around his back. Sebastian Jobe has gained a place. Berryman's had an awful start, down 2 places, but he's trying to fight back here. Oh, Jobe, and there's a little bit of a contact.
Jobe gets forced out wide, and Luke Pennington, I think, possibly also getting involved in dramas. Jacob Tofts was right on his tail as they came into McLean. So the class winners from race 1 having a pretty tough opening lap. Number 10 there, Jack Sedgwick, has got himself ahead of Sebastian Jobe. There are points for the top 10. He's got to be in that as Jobe. Another spinner. Look, there is Daniel Cofield, one of the AMs. So a lively first lap. Take the order and really give it a good old shuffle as across the line they come. And yet more mayhem has broken out.
That's Thomas Cope, that is. Nice 360, but I don't think that's what he wanted to do here. Here comes Matt Emery down the inside now of Berryman. Oh, my goodness, that's all got a little bit too tight, and they can make contact.
And off they both run, or very wide, certainly. So Berryman gets elbowed back down the order to 8th. Emery hangs on to 6th place. So up front, it is Thompson from Carroll from Davidson. In 4th place, Luke McEwen. Higgins is 5th, Emery 6th, Jobe 7th, then helped in part by Berryman's dramas. Berryman is in turn now 9th behind Sedgwick, and rounding out the top 10 is Leo Gariboli. So now Thompson is trying to keep everybody else at bay.
What's the collective noun for a group of Porsches? Because, my goodness, there's a swarm here, that is for sure, in the mid-pack. They're all still duking it out like it's the last lap of a 5-minute sprint race here. This is people trying to make moves up through the field where they're trying to recover from maybe bad qualifyings and bad race 1s.
If you want to be alliterative about it, maybe a phalanx of Porsches, or a plethora, or what about a Panamera of Porsches? Anyway, over the line they come, and Thompson it is up front. You're looking at David Williams, who's down in 14th place, trying to wriggle his way up the order. And Thompson is under attack for his late race lead. Graham Carroll inside at Hollywood. He's going to have to be very, very brave round the outside, down through the craners, but that will give him the inside line for the old hairpin. He's not quite done it yet, has he?
No, he's not, and Thompson's a keen fighter. He will fight back, and look at McEwen. He's taken advantage of Davidson getting checked up in all of this, and he's got up into 3rd place now. Luke McEwen, he is hungry to try and get himself a race win now.
Yeah, McEwen could be on for a win, even though it's the reverse grid race, because Thompson can't get away, Carroll can't find a way past, and now Graham is going to be attacking and defending at the same time.
Oh, this is great stuff, fantastic, and we're on board with McEwen, and we're getting the perfect seat here to see that battle for the lead. Carroll's going to be a little bit compromised through the chicane, and here comes Luke.
So over the line they come. Luke McEwen on the outside line. This is Alex Davidson's view, and he's trying to buy into this. Graham Carroll is being mugged, isn't he? But he's going to be the last of the late breakers into Redgate. Back through on the inside line. Elbows out. He's got the inside for Hollywood, as Graham. The inside for the first part of the Craners will be Luke McEwen's. The inside line for the old hairpin will be Graham Carroll's. Fantastic racing. It's Graham ahead.
You know, lads, if you want to see each other's paints, just ask for the paint codes afterwards. My goodness, there's no need to rub it off. But this is great stuff to watch. I'm loving this second race. Let's have reverse grids more often.
Absolutely. We're not done yet, though. Look side by side for second. McEwen is back ahead of Graham Carroll. They touch down up the hill. And they stay on the racetrack just as Davidson tries to get back into the mix. But, great as it is to watch, look what it's done to the lead. Josh Thompson has disappeared up the road.
Oh, Josh Thompson will be looking in his mirrors right now, laughing. He'll be loving this, the young Manxman, that is for sure. And they're slowing each other. Look at Davidson. What a run out the chicane. Thank you very much. I'll take second place.
We've got cars all over the road. Look, 3, 4 wide almost, diving down towards Redgate corner. Thompson, Davidson, Carroll is third-ish. This is Matt Emery's view out of Redgate onto the top of the Craners. That's Sebastian Job on the outside, and Job is into the top 6 now.
Oh my goodness, take a breath, guys. We're only in the first 5 minutes of this race. We've still got over 20 minutes to go in this one. I don't think my blood pressure will cope with this one if it carries on like this.
But Thompson is now 2 seconds up the road. Now, it doesn't seem 2 laps ago that I was saying he can't get away and he's got the ball stacked up behind him. Well, he has got away, but that's not necessarily down to his pace. It's because of all the squabbling and the delays that have been engendered behind him. So second and back could be anybody's at flag 4, couldn't it?
Yes, absolutely. The crucial thing here is Thompson having that gap, he's broken the slipstream gap. So those drivers behind, they're not going to be getting that advantage of that slipstream. So he can try and control a bit of pace, try and run away at the front, while the rest of them are squabbling away. And poor Gareth Higgins, who got caught up, he was in 4th place at one point, but he's dropped down 2 places on this lap.
He has indeed then, as the cars come out of Redgate again. So Josh Thompson leads Alex Davidson, and that gap is coming down. We had it at 1.9. Now it is a second and a half. So Davidson is pushing. He has got better pace. He's taking Graham Carroll with him, who we thought might have been a race winner. And then in 4th place, Luke McEwen, who we also thought might be on for a race win. So this might be the calm before the storm, mightn't it now, as they all try and bunch up once again. And then it kicks off towards the end. Thompson, I will offer you, is on borrowed time because they pack behind quicker. And at the moment, they're not fighting each other.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing that he didn't want. Oh, here's what happened to Luke Bennett at the start, and it was, just a slight touch. And I think that was the killer blow right there, just that contact, and nothing that the car on the outside could do in that moment.
No, indeed, just a tag from a rival, and then somebody in the wrong place at the wrong time. That was how Thomas didn't cope coming out of the chicane. So Tom Cope goes around. I don't think he took anybody with him, or that looked all self-induced, didn't it? Pit lane's getting busier with more and more drivers bailing because they realise they just can't get in the points.
And one of those drivers who's just headed onto pit lane is Will Chadwick. It's gone from bad to worse for the driver who was joint second in the championship coming into this round. So 2 retirements for Will Chadwick, 3rd and 2nd at Silverstone, retirement at Donington, and that will have given his championship hopes, as you say, a real kick in the whatsits, as the race leaders currently work their lap number 7, and the gap is coming down between the top 2, isn't it? Because at the start of this lap it was just over a second. So Thompson is certainly being caught by Davidson. You can see how much the gap has come down. You've got Carroll running in 3rd, Luke McEwen is 4th, but in actual point of fact, McEwen isn't catching Carroll as yet, is he? The gaps between 2nd and 3rd, 3rd and 4th, 4th and 5th are remaining the same, but net, they're all catching the overall race leader. It'll be interesting to see what the lap times are as, Gareth Higgins just pulls over to the side there, letting a couple of drivers by. So obviously issues for Gareth at this stage of the race. There you see Pete Berryman going down the inside. Berryman my goodness, he's down 3 places from where he started. It's not been a good second race for him. He would have wanted a bit better day of this one, but he's starting that recovery drive now, pushing through. But certainly, I think you're right, David. We're at very much the calm before the storm here, and business will pick up in that last sort of 10 minutes or so.
A quick word about Matt Emery, 6th, as you've been identifying, Paul. Silverstone, he got a 15th and a 14th and no points. So this is a much more competitive-looking Matt Emery, number 34 for the Veloci Vexed team, and looking like a different driver compared to what we had in the first couple of races.
They must have been putting a bit extra time into this round. Both him and Graham Carroll did not have a good Silverstone at all. And yeah, I do think that this Veloci Vex team, they've put that time in, that extra preparation. As I say, there's nothing you can do with the setup. You've just got to learn how it drives and how the car handles different conditions. And well, if there's one thing that's handy about the sim, is basically you've got unlimited practice time.
That's true enough. The Donington National Circuit, of course, this weekend. We come back to Donington for the penultimate event, but we'll be on the Grand Prix circuit for that. The next stop is going to be the Snetterton 200, when we are back in action. And it may well be that we have yet another winner's name at the top of the lists by the time we get there, based on who is going to be up front at the end of the next 15 minutes and change, because it is still, remember, Josh Thompson leading from Alex Davidson and Graham Carroll and Luke McEwen. And those 4 have not had a win yet this year and are all perfectly capable of taking a victory.
Yeah, we said right at the start of the season last time at Silverstone, you could maybe count 6 people that you would think, oh, they'll definitely win a race. This season, oh my goodness, that driver just got unceremoniously dumped. It was Crofton Woodhatch. Absolutely just dumped into the wall. Yeah, that was, I think I'm going to use a Ron Dennisism, suboptimal.
Well, it's a great shame that, because Crofton was pretty handy at Silverstone, so to be turfed off the road like that, bad news. Now, the race leading gap, 0.6 of a second at the start of this lap, with just 14 minutes to go. So, to complete the story, the gap is still coming down, isn't it? Thompson got away while they were squabbling and falling over each other, but he doesn't have the pure pace to maintain that gap. So, lap after lap, everybody else is getting closer and closer. Crofton Woodhatch in replay, that's what happened. He was trying to move across the road, he got a tag, he found the wall.
And that's one of the unprotected parts of the wall as well. No tyre barriers or recticel to stop your car hitting a solid object there, so that's not going to be helping. I can tell you, Alex Davidson's 5-lap average pace is a full 2.25 tenths, faster per lap than Josh Thompson. So he has got some pace there, and Graham Carroll is matching Alex Davidson's pace. So I think Graham is very much a case of, right, I'll follow you. You set the pace. You seem to be going fast enough. I'll follow you. And then when we get to Josh, that's when the gloves come off.
And I think those gloves are certainly being untied, aren't they? You're right, they're not off yet, but we're not far away from what promises to be an absolute battle royal to round out the race. Though 13 minutes and change, there's still quite a lot of laps, therefore, left in this. What did we get out of the first one? 24 laps from memory was the duration. And right now, we're on lap number 11. So, Thompson, Davidson, Carroll, the top 3. Luke McEwen is catching back up, isn't he? As the cars turn their way through Coppice once again. And Sebastian Job still banking points in 5th place, mirroring what he did at Silverstone.
Yeah, and if anybody knows how to win this championship, it's Sebastian. And getting yourself points is all that you need. As Gareth Higgins, with a few internet problems, has ended up off track and into the wall. So I think that's Gareth Higgins' day done and dusted.
Looks like it, doesn't it? So Gareth Higgins, I'm afraid to say, out of the race. And he was well placed on the grid, wasn't he? He was 8th on the grid. So big disappointment after what should have been a race that netted some points. A solid finish was on the cards, but not anymore, sad to say. Right, it's going on further down the order as the leaders accelerate their way up through Schwantz Curve. That's your leading 4. Thompson, 2 seconds ahead, is now barely 2/10 ahead. How things have changed in this race. Alex Davidson is second. Now look, Davidson has got to make the move, hasn't he, before Graham Carroll latches right onto his tail. Carroll, though, has got his hands and mirrors and everything else absolutely full of Luke McEwen.
Yeah, absolutely. And Josh as much as he will have been laughing earlier on at everybody else squabbling for second, will now be looking in his mirrors going, oh no. There's 3 very quick drivers. But we have seen in the opening 3 rounds of this championship that people can defend the lead and hold on to the win. We saw it with Job in both the first race here today and at Silverstone, and we saw it last time out with Pete Berryman holding on to that lead at Silverstone. Josh Thompson, let's see if you can do it.
Well, he's going to have to make the car wide, no question about that, but he's not going to be able to drive away. And to defend with 3 cars behind you for over 11 minutes, which is what we have now, is a really tall order. But let us see. So Josh Thompson then, for Team Redline, leads the way. Alex Davidson in the WSR Esports entry is behind him. And Thompson is under huge pressure on the climb up now towards Coppice. Is Graham Carroll going to wait for Davidson to make a move for the lead and see what he can do on the back of that? Or is he going to be pushing to get past Davidson and then it makes him the person to attack for the race lead? We're about to find out.
It's 6 of one, half a dozen of the other, isn't it, really? Especially when you've got Luke McEwen, who we've seen has got the pace from that race number 1. But Graham Carroll, he's also got that matching pace, so they're all sort of evening out right now in terms of lap time, so they've seemed to have come up behind Thompson and then hit a sort of proverbial wall right now in terms of lap times. I think they're all just setting their stalls, preparing themselves, and then will push on in that last 8 minutes or so.
So once more, down through the old hairpin they come. Last time around, Thompson did a 65.5. Davidson was quicker. Grant Carroll was quicker as well. So stands to reason, doesn't it? They qualified better, they raced better. Second, third and fourth have got the pace over the car that leads the race. But as long as Thompson is able to stick out his elbows, keep them at bay, then he's in the box seat. But look, first to fourth is coming down. It is now one gigantic 16-wheeled 911 in the lead.
Don't give Porsche ideas of new products, but Josh, I mean, I've actually had the privilege of racing against Josh in the past in a GT3 series, and he is somebody who will fight you fair, but he will give you at minimum, or at most, should I say, a car's width and not a millimetre more. He is one of those that will squeeze and put you in compromising positions that will then make you think, I better not make that move at this time.
Now, bearing in mind that the clock is ticking on down, we've suddenly got ourselves to 9 minutes, and Davidson hasn't had a go yet at Thompson. He's done the catching, and it's almost, and you touched on this in the first race in the context of Luke McEwen, having caught the car ahead, it's almost like he's now mesmerised and he's just following. So Davidson has got to get creative now, hasn't he, and try somehow to find a way through. Otherwise, Graham Carroll is going to be all over the back of him for second place overall. In Am, by the way, Luke Pennington is still leading. Scott Mokes is second. There is, look, Luke Pennington in the red car on that side. And when you see it into the chicane, it can be both red and black as it goes from one side of the road to the other. He's under attack from Jacob Tofts, though. There it is, change sides, the black car now of Luke Pennington that comes out of the chicane. And Tofts goes running crossing, and that throws away a place to David Williams.
And also to Scott Merckx as well. That'll help Scott in his fight for the AM first place. Scott's not too far back yet, so don't write him out of this, but Luke will be wanting to not get involved in anybody else's shenanigans, as still side by side Thomas Cope, who had that 360 out of the chicane, and Jacob Tofts still close together, and that is going to be Cope who gets ahead.
And this is one of the beauties of the championship, isn't it? That just about everybody has got somebody to race against. And a little bit further down, there's that fascination of the quicker AMs with the slower pros mixing it against one another. Now, to the eye, Davidson is even closer than he has been. He ought to be able to think about making a move into Redgate on this basis, as long as he doesn't lose time through the chicane. Goes right, goes left, back on the power. But Graham Carroll is quicker than him. Look at Graham Carroll now looking menacing. 7 minutes and change on the clock.
Oh, this is now where the wick gets turned up at this stage of the race. Now you've got to start making your moves here, Alex. Let's see what you're made of. And Josh Thompson as well. Let's see what you can do in the lead, because you have got two very, very quick drivers behind you in Graham Carroll and Luke McEwen. So this is going to be fascinating to watch. And on board with Luke McEwen. If he wants to win this race, he really needs to start moving forward past Carroll and Davidson, but that's easier said than done.
So the leading quartet up towards McLean's. We've got less than 7 minutes to go. Hat tip to Josh Thompson because he's not cracking under the pressure. He may not be getting away, but he's not made a mistake. And look how close McEwen is to the back of Carroll's car now. Suddenly the fight's on for third rather than second, rather than for the race lead. This is McEwen's view. That is Graham Carroll ahead of him. The chicane beckons, but McEwen closes right up and he doesn't commit to a gap on the inside.
Just wasn't quite close enough, was he, to make that move into the chicane? And we were talking about it before the race. Oh, Davidson's feeling the need to go defensive on Carroll here. He's gone from looking to attack to now defending from Carroll. This is the opportunity that Graham needs to take.
And that's exactly what Thompson needed, because as soon as Davidson gets on his toes and defends, look, the gap for the lead stretches. 6 minutes to go. You get the feeling that were Graham Carroll to get past Davidson, he'd be able to make an attack, and it might come now. Davidson is wide on the grass. Does that affect the momentum? It does a bit, but not enough to give Graham Carroll a real lifeline.
I think Jonathan Palmer will be sending him a new lawn bill, though, that's for sure, for that one. But, yeah, Alex Davidson, second place. He is feeling that pressure right now, and I think he'll be more pressure on himself than from the drivers after race one, not being able to hang on to that second place in the first race.
So again, down they come towards the chicane, but look, we've got just over 5 minutes to go. And bear in mind, Josh Thompson has led this from the start of the race. It's a mighty drive because he's got them all stacked up behind him. Over the line they come again then, and the margin just over 0.3 of a second. Brake, change down, turn into the ever-tightening Redgate corner. And look, McEwen right there on the back of Graham Carroll, and this is Carroll's problem. He wants to attack, but he's also got to defend.
It's such a difficult place to be when you're that car in between two others and you're looking in your mirror, predicting what the car behind's going to do, but you're also looking ahead to try and get one over the other. It is so difficult to be in this position right now, and Thompson's got to be thankful for Graham to make those moves to slow down Davidson. And yeah, about 3.5 tenths gap. It's the biggest it's been for a good 10 minutes now, is that gap.
It's a fascinating race, this, because nobody has ever really been able to have the ultimate pace because they've always been in traffic, but equally they've never been able to make a move. Adam Holloway, meantime, in 20th spot, busy squabbling. He's coming out of Redgate onto the top of the crane and curves and getting himself in stride onto the grass. And now you just become a toboggan, heading all the way down the hill. And you've got to hope that when you get back onto the circuit, there's not another car around you. He got away with that. 4 minutes to go. There are the race leaders into Redgate. Thompson still ahead, but only just.
Yeah, time is running out. We're about 4 laps remaining in this one. So this is now a case of make your move. You've got to pull the trigger here, and you can't, though, do something desperate, because when you make a desperate move, you pretty much throw away a chance for a win in just throwing in a lunge. So you've got to be calculated about it, but you need to make that move now.
So Luke McEwen, we're on board with him. He comes up out of McLean's into Coppice, double apex right. That's the first apex. Here comes the second. Turn it in, back on the power. Easy to get that part of the circuit wrong. But up front, Josh Thompson is still clear of Alex Davidson, and Graham Carroll, try as he might, just can't usurp him, can he?
This is a great display from Alex, I will say. This is really good, because he's not one of those drivers that we would have automatically thought would be challenging for a win at the start of the season, but my goodness, is he giving it a go, and actually he's closed right up to the back of Thompson into Redgate there.
So what are we going to get? 2 more laps maybe after this, down through the crane of curves. You're right, Davidson definitely has closed, but he can't force an error as yet out of Thompson. Down to the old hairpin. There's about a length in it, that's all. Davidson back on the power. Heads up towards Schwant's curve, then towards McLean's. It looks like he's a little bit quicker, closing slightly as he comes towards McLean's. But by the time he gets there, already turning in ahead of him and defending is Thompson.
Look at how wide Thompson's going compared to Davidson. Is that a case of he's worked those tyres a little bit harder and he's having to have those wider lines? Well, Davidson, he's not close enough to make the move at this point, but my goodness, is he putting the pressure on here? And Carroll and McEwen tries them here. They can't get close enough to make the move. Well, that's a big slide from Davidson. That's a slight mistake at the chicane.
And that might give Graham Carroll a chance to challenge on the inside at Redgate, but he's not really close enough, is he? And he's also got to be mindful that if he tries something that doesn't work, McEwen will jump him as well. So the status quo maintained onto the top of the Crater curves. Another lap to run at the end of this. Alex Davidson, remember, was only 11th and then 21st at Silverstone, so it's been a massive turnaround of fortunes for him. So maybe he'll be content to bank points in this second race after a troubled first round. That said, of course, Paul, he's a racing driver. He wants a win.
Oh, I've commentated on Alex for a couple of years now. He will want this win. He won't settle for second place, I can assure you of that. And he has raced against Josh for those couple of years that I've been commentating on him. He will push him to the end, but Josh Thompson, I mean, years ago, you would have said he would have crept under the pressure and he would have thrown it at a wall or thrown it at the other car. Here right now, this Josh Thompson, he has matured so much compared to where he was when he started. He's really putting on a good display as we're on to the last lap.
It is now or never for Davidson, Carroll and McEwen, who has a mega send for third up the inside, but he goes wide at Redgate. That gives Graham Carroll the chance to fight back. McEwen knew he had to try something. Try he did. Carroll gets squeezed to the curb on the inside at Hollywood. Inside for the Craners, McEwen. Inside for the old hairpin, Carroll. Graham Carroll goes back ahead, and what that has done is take the pressure off Davidson.
And look who's caught right up to the back of them, Sebastian Job. He's sniffing around for points in this one as well. He can sense up. Oh, there's contact. Bang, bang. Concertina effect. And this is McEwen's opportunity now. Oh, little hip check back.
Yeah, McEwen was the cue ball in that, was a tap from Job into the back of Carroll, and McEwen and Job getting ever so feisty now. Job on the outside line, McEwen on the inside. All of a sudden, he's desperate to hang on to fourth place. They're still leaning on each other. Look, coming down to the chicane. That might yet end in tears. Checkered flag is at the ready. Who is going to be fourth? It's going to be Job because he's ahead, but it's going to be a race win for Josh Thompson. He takes the checkered flag to win ahead of Alex Davidson and then Graham Carroll. Sebastian Job fourth. Luke McEwen briefly third, but he ends up fifth. Matt Emery comes through for sixth. Only seventh, Pete Berryman. Eighth, Jack Sedgwick. Ninth, Leo Gariboli. 10th, Eric Grove. And Luke Pennington has done it again in Am. That's 3 out of 3. Before this race, it's 4 out of 4 at the end of it. The 100% record for Luke Pennington continues at the end of another absolutely fascinating round of the Rafa Racing Club Esports Carrera Cup Great Britain Championship. Great drive, though, by Josh Thompson.
That was a very mature drive and held his lines, held his position. Whenever he came under pressure, he knew exactly when to defend. He didn't defend some fresh air. He waited for people to be close enough to be able to then make that defensive move, hold them back. And yeah, absolutely sterling job from Josh Thompson, especially, I will say, from the very start of the race when it was all manner of craziness.
So, a fourth and a sixth at Silverstone, a sixth and a win at Donington. Valuable points then at the end of the 24-lap race. Fastest lap, just to give credit to Alex Davidson, who did a 1 minute 5.057. But Josh Thompson wins the race ahead of Alex Davidson, and then Graham Carroll taking third. In fourth place, it was Sebastian Job ahead of Luke McEwen, and then Matt Emery. Peter Berryman, seventh from Jack Sedgwick and Leo Gariboli. Eric Grove rounding out the top 10. Dan Sedgley, 11th ahead of Luke Pennington. Tom Cope was 13th from David Williams and then Jacob Toft. Dan Martin, 16th ahead of Tim Darracott, Dylan Platt, and then Adam Holloway, 19th. And Scott Mokes, only 20th. 21st, Nathan Tague ahead of Oliver Ettridge. Daniel Cofield was 23rd, then Gareth Higgins, Crofton Woodhatch, William Chadwick, Luke Bennett, all of whom we lost. Cofield, Higgins, Woodhatch, Chadwick, Bennett, retirements because of earlier dramas. But another race with so much going on, Paul, all the way through.
Yeah, that was an absolutely sensational race. Certainly race of the season for me. Okay, it was a little bit too crazy for my liking at the start, but well, it was entertaining to watch from the commentary booth, that is for sure. But credit where credit's due. Josh Thompson did a very mature drive at the front, but Sebastian Job, he was nowhere 2 laps from the end. Last lap, gets involved in that third place battle and gets himself an extra place at the end.
just great driving, wasn't it, by Josh Thompson to hang on to it. And you have to feel a bit for Luke McEwen. He knew he had to try something. It was worth a go. In a sense, trouble was that it delayed him enough to give Sebastian Jobe that chance to challenge, and it could have ended in tears, but it was 1 up and 2 back in the end for Luke McEwen. It was great stuff going through the Craner curves, but Sebastian Jobe, who'd just been sitting there biding his time, realised that was the moment to push, and as soon as he was back at the races, push he did. Contact, though, from Schwantz curve up to McLean's was really the catalyst for all the drama, wasn't it?
Yeah, and it was just Jobe getting into the back of McEwen. McEwen then got into the back of Carroll. Then it got a little bit dicey up at the Coppice corner, and I thought they were going to turn each other around here down the Starkey Straight. It was just absolutely crazy just how they were rubbing door panels. I mean, don't they know how expensive these panels are on these cars? But yeah, Jobe hung it out around the outside and was able to just get that 4th place in the end.
So great racing, but a really good drive by Josh Thompson. And I think he's in the waiting room, isn't he? Now we can probably have a word with Josh, Paul, after what was a great drive.
Absolutely. Josh, I mean, let's just briefly touch on race 1. It was a busy race for you. You started 7th, you finished 6th. It gave you the pole position for the second race, but not the busiest of races for you.
Yeah, like you said, race 1 was just, obviously I qualified a little bit lower down than I wanted to. I messed up my second lap in qualifying, so I knew I had to get the reverse grid around here just with how hard it was to overtake with the chicane. So that was the main focus. Obviously, I managed to do a bit of I'd probably say one of my better moves I've ever done into turn 1 on Emery for that reverse grid pole, so that was lovely. And then, like you said, after that, it was pretty much straightforward for that race.
And I want to touch the start of that second race. I mean, were you looking in your mirrors thinking, okay, who's going to be the next taker? Because they were all knocking bells out of each other.
Yeah, to be honest, I'll happily say I did not have the pace. That kind of showed in race 1. I couldn't really do anything. I kind of just fell away a little bit. So race 2, I had to go into it like I had to just play the long game with the tyres. I was just full management the entire race, see what happens. But like you said, I had Alex on my door, I had Graham alongside me for like half a lap. I just had to play it really smart at the start and just wait for the end.
Well, you were put under some serious pressure from Alex Davidson, as well as Graham Carroll and Luke McEwen. You're saying about managing the tyres, has that been sort of the theme of the season so far for this championship?
For me especially, yes. I struggled a lot at round 1, just general pace mid-end of the race. I'm trying to work on it a little bit. I did that a few times in the contender series, like Laguna Seca comes back to mind so much, how hard I pushed at the start and had nothing at the end. So I'm had to try and work on it a little bit. Obviously, it's still not there yet. I think here I just struggled on raw paces in general, but I think the management was good. So let's see going forward. I think it'll still be the same picture though.
And very briefly, Snetterton next time out around the 200 layout. What are your thoughts on that and your chances around there?
I think Snetterton will be okay for me. I prefer that over this place. I've gone well there in the past with race there, so hopefully I'll have a bit more raw pace. It makes it a bit easier because that was a stressful 24 laps or something.
Well, Josh, congratulations. Race 2 win of the day here.
Thank you, guys.
Always good to hear from Josh here in the commentary box. David, I think he's quite right to be happy with how that went today.
Happy with the result, happy, I suspect, with his driving, because as we were saying during the course of the race, and he's admitted it, he didn't have the outright pace, but that was a really impressive, measured drive. It would have been very easy, no matter where you were in the race, with so many cars behind you, to make a small mistake, but we never saw one. And when you're pitching for a race win, there's even more pressure. But Josh Thompson was just like a sponge, wasn't he? He soaked up the pressure, didn't put a wheel wrong. Really, really impressive.
He certainly was. One driver who has had a mixed time out there for Olympus Esports then, Thomas Cope, is going to be joining us. And Thomas, I mean, talk us through your opening 2 rounds of the championship, because, well, you got 2 9th places here today.
I don't think I did in the second race. I had a spin on lap 1, but...
Oh, yes, sorry, yes.
But yeah, no.
The grid place for race 2, sorry.
Yeah, the race 1 was all right. It's nice to know for myself that I've got some good pace and I can keep up a little bit with the pro guys. So I'm not quite there with them, but yeah, I'm really pushing everything I can to stick with them and learn as much as I can in a quick succession, so I can try and get some good results later on in the championship.
Well, we just saw the spin that you did have on lap 1 of the second race, Thomas. I mean, first of all, you must have been in the car thinking, no, when you see a wall approaching your car. But then how do you then just change that and think, right, I need to start gaining places back?
It's just mental reset. I knew I had the pace. I knew I had a lot of AM drivers in front and some teammates as well. So it was just getting my head back in it and sort of focusing down. I knew the cars ahead of me. I had some good pace on them. So it's just knuckling down and not letting the spin get the best of me. I had to do a bit of tyre relaxation because I kind of overheated the tyres with the spin. But yeah, there was some good fights as well coming through the field and really in front of me that helped me catch back up as well. So it really was helpful with the dramas from other cars.
Well, Thomas, we'll let you get away, and well done on the recovery drive in the end, and well done on race 1, 9th place in the end.
Thank you very much, guys.
Yeah, always good to hear, not just from winners. I always like to hear sort of how drivers do cope, pun intended, with having instants and spins like that.
Yeah, and how they're able to then, if you like, dig deep, regroup, carry on in the race, and still treat it as a worthwhile exercise. I've seen quite a number of esports races in which some top-line drivers get punted off early on or have a drama in the first few corners and just bail, walk away, which you can't do, if you like, really from a real-world race. But Tom Cope suggesting there that by each lap done, it's more mileage, it's more experience, and he's advancing as a driver. So, yeah, interesting to see, and a good recovery in the end. Josh Thompson and Sebastian Jobe then are 2 race winners. Okay, Sebastian Jobe winning race 1, Paul. We're getting familiar with that, but it's great to see, isn't it, here, different names in race 2 up at the pointy end that weren't there at Silverstone.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think it shows the level of the competition in this championship that we've been able to have. So, okay, Silverstone, the Veloci Vex team, they were out of the points. They weren't really in there on the pace. They come here this week and they're on the pace. It shows that each round it's not going to be the same people up there at the front. And for us in the commentary box, for everybody watching at home, that's nothing but great, really, is it?
Absolutely right. Well, it's been good racing from Donington, no question about it, and we will move next to the Snetterton 200 layout, which is, if you like, the circuit layout that still exists, that is close to the more recent iteration of Snetterton, if you like. If the very old days, they used to have a long straight up to a hairpin and all the way back down again. That was dispensed with. That's really the way you drive into Snetterton now, that part of the real estate. Instead, there was that very fast Revit straight on the back, now Bentley straight down towards the S's. The Snetterton 300 that Carrera Cup GB uses has the infield, but we'll be on the 200. So we're going back, if you like, to the Snetterton configuration of the 80s, 90s, early noughties. And what that means is that we are going to have some very good racing, especially with brave overtaking and outbraking at the end of Bentley straight towards the S's. We are going to be racing at Snetterton on the 11th of February. Of course, action starts 2 o'clock British time. Usual format, qualifying for 10 minutes, the 2 25-minute races, and we'll find out whether Sebastian Jobe can do 3 out of 3 in race 1, or whether he can maintain his championship lead, or how many new winning names we can have at the end of the day. We'll see you then on February the 11th from Snetterton. For now, from Paul Smith and David Addison, thanks for your company. Goodbye from Donington.